Hi everybody, this is TJ with Spotlight Power Trader. This video is specifically about Thinkorswim. As you know, we have made this available for Thinkorswim just recently, and I wanted to go through some of the things that you're going to have to do in order to work with Thinkorswim using Spotlight Power Trader. So let's just start with installation. When you go to your Spotlight Power Trader OC, the Owners Club, you're going to want to click on the Indicator Installation tab. Then on the left side, scroll down, and near the bottom or at the bottom, you'll see the installation instructions for Thinkorswim. Click on that, and then follow these instructions. Okay, but ultimately, you're going to want to click here to download the indicator package and make sure you get the newest version. If you have an earlier version installed, you're going to want to replace it with this new version. That's very important. So let's do that. We're going to click on it here. It's downloaded. Then I'm going to go to my download folder. This is Windows 7 Pro, but it'll work, of course, on the other versions. 10 is what most of you are using. You'll see that I've downloaded it here at the top. So then I'm going to right click on it. Actually, I'm going to click on it, left click on it, then up here it says open. And I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to select all three of these files and hit extract. And it's going to tell me or ask me where to extract it, and I'm going to extract it to my desktop. And hit OK. I'm going to replace everything. There, it's finished. So now that it's downloaded, let's go to Thinkorswim. To see step 2, log into Thinkorswim. Once in Thinkorswim, open up a chart. I use the active trader window because I can have a ladder here to place trades and bracket orders and what have you, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. That's a nice window to work with. The next thing you want to do is left click, go to Studies, and Edit Studies. Then we want to click the Import button. And we need to find those files that I just downloaded and saved to the desktop. So once you're in your desktop, sort, and then click on the details and then sort by date modified. And I'm going to choose my Calc study, my OSOB study, and my balance line study. All right, those are the three you want. Calc study, OSOB study, balance line study. They start with SL for Spotlight. Then go ahead and hit open. Just replace it if you've already downloaded the earlier versions. And once you've done that, you can hit apply, then hit OK, and now you've got the indicators. So then you want to left click on your chart and go to Studies. I'll do it higher so you can see. Left click, Studies, Add Study, then you want to go to User Defined, and that's where you're going to find your Spotlight calculator. So go ahead and put the calculator on, then left click, go to Studies, Add Studies, User Defined. Try that again. Keeps going off the screen here. Studies, Add Studies, User Defined, SL, OSOB. And then one more time. Studies, Add Studies, User Defined. And then you want the SL balance line. And now you've got Spotlight loaded on your chart. You may want to put the 2 moving averages that we use as well, the 50 moving average and the 200 moving average. So right click on your chart, go to Studies, Add Studies, Trend Studies, Add Studies, Trend Studies. Moving averages are L through P, and you'll find the exponential moving average there. You want to put that on twice. Double click on the first one, change the value to 50, change the color to yellow, and the width to 3. And then add one more. Studies, add study, trend, L through P, exponential, double click on what you just added, change it to a 200, make it magenta, and a width of 2 or 3, it's up to you. And now you have it. And with those you can see the filtered out trades, why setups would be gray, for example. But before you do anything else, I want you to right click on your chart again, go to Studies, save study set, and name it SPT1 default. And now you've got the basic chart and you can apply it to anything you'd like. I apologize for all the background noise. The gardeners have their own agenda. They've left, so let's continue. Now that you've got Spotlight on your chart, you're going to see that you're going to have some trades. This is a current chart of the Dow E-mini using a 377 tick chart. The markets have already closed. Instantly, I'm just going to expand it by hitting the zoom in here and just show you how it picked up the last 2 trades, and you could even see these gray trades here that were filtered out because of the squeeze filter. I want to make it very clear that you really need to go through the training videos, even though I'm doing the training videos on my preferred platform, TradeStation. They apply to your learning the Spotlight. Okay, so I've just shown you how to put the Spotlight on Thinkorswim, but you need to go through the training to learn how to use Spotlight. All right, so I'm not going to teach you how to use this, what these setups mean and the filters, because I've already done all that. Just go watch those other training videos. Hopefully you already have. All right, one thing about Thinkorswim, there's some pros and cons to it. One of the cons is that we're limited with our aesthetics. Okay, in other words, we can't get that nice little plus sign for our entry. Instead, we have to use this little square. So that little square is your entry. The small little dot before the targets is your money management level, and then you've got your 4 targets. Okay, so on the short side, same thing. The little square is your entry. I want to open up the calculator and show you how you can start manipulating things. If you click on one of the targets and then with your left mouse just double click it, click, click, it opens up your calculator settings. Over here on the left are the descriptions of each input. And on the right, you can scroll down and this is where you can affect your calculator by changing inputs. Some inputs you will not find in this calculator because they just cannot be programmed into Thinkorswim. For example, key level adjustments. Key level adjustments, you're going to have to learn how to just do it in your head. All right, so go through the key level adjustment training, learn the concepts, and when it occurs on your Thinkorswim chart, you'll get used to it. If there's a long at a 9, you just instantly go up 2 ticks and put the long at the 1. Or if there's a short at the 1, you're going to go down 2 ticks and put the short at the 9. All right, you'll get used to that. That's just something you're going to have to practice. But there are a lot of really great inputs in here that work great, okay? So, for example, you can change things. One of the things I'd like you to do, well, you could think about if you want to do this or not, but down here where it says use stop and reverse adjustments, the default has it set to yes, and then it has a 2-tick adjustment for stop and reversals. If you leave that on, that's fine, as long as you remember that you've done so. The way we do the stop and reversals with the adjustments is that not only do we adjust it by the 2 ticks, but then we also would adjust around any key levels that it might push us up against after the adjustment. Okay? One of the things I think would be a good idea while you're learning the strategy so that you can just use your brain and think through things, and that'll help you understand the strategy more, is just like key level adjustments, set your stop and reversements to false. Turn it off by setting it to no. And then you'll find that it will not adjust your entries for the reversing trade when that happens. And you get used to doing it in your head as well. Okay, I think that's a good way to learn the strategy. So I'm going to set it to no, hit apply. Other than that, this is the basic default setting on some of the futures charts that I personally trade. Instead of using a 20-bar crossover filter, I like to set mine to 8. I'm a little more aggressive with that, and that's something you could play with. You can turn your filters off right here. Like right here, you'll notice in the squeeze zone, these trades are grayed out because you got the 50 moving average pushing down to the 200, and then you've got a long trade up against the 50. The only time we're going to worry about trading against the 50 is when we're in the squeeze zone. But you can turn that filter off. Look what happens when I do. I set that to no, hit apply, and all of a sudden now that trade becomes valid, you see? Now, there were 2 setups, but that's because once you turn the filter on, the software is no longer tracking the trade. It just shows it to you. So when I turn it back on, set that filter to yes and hit apply, now you see this setup, and then there happens to be another one as well. They're both filtered out, you see. So it's nice. It works really well. You could also change some of your aesthetics. The way the default is, I've got your exhaustion dots with these colors for the short side and these colors for the long side. You can see those here by clicking on these plots, and you could change those colors if you'd like. There's definitely some customization that you can do. When you're day trading futures, I personally prefer to use range bars or momentum bars, but they are just simply not going to work with Thinkorswim. Okay, it has nothing to do with Spotlight. It just has to do with how Thinkorswim handles range bars. And the way they handle range bars is just not very good. And if you put a range bar on your chart in live time and you look at the right edge of your chart, you're going to see bars that appear and then bars that disappear. And then they appear and disappear and appear and disappear. And that happens when a range is forming, because Thinkorswim doesn't know when to start a new bar when the prior bar is finished. Okay, it's going to wait until the new bar actually finishes its range. Then it's going to print and do the same thing again, back and forth and back and forth. Okay, so that messes with the calculations for setups. Unfortunately, there's no workaround. It's just one of the things about Thinkorswim that you just have to learn to live with. So the way that you learn to live with it is you don't use range bars. Use tick charts. Spotlight works great with tick charts. You can even see on these last 2 setups, look how accurate the target is. The target 4, it came down and hit it perfectly. Look at the accuracy here, just stabbing right up above target 3. This trade would still be going, except the market closed. This is the right before the end of the close on Friday, but the setups are still working. So I will just have you choose to work with tick charts. Plus you get the nice tick counter down here. Another thing about Thinkorswim is that it doesn't know to wait for the bar to close before plotting the trade. So if we were seeing this in real time, for example, this bar would be forming. You'd be seeing the tick counter, counting the ticks, and it might give you a setup intra-bar. You might get a setup that appears, then disappears, then appears, then disappears, depending on if it's a legitimate setup. But what you need to know about Spotlight is it will not be a legitimate setup as far as our concern, as far as our wanting to use it, until after the bar has closed. So you have to wait. Don't get fooled into a trade that appears when the bar is still printing, when it's still forming. Always wait for the bar to finish and close and the new bar to open before acting on a trade. It's very important. It's another peculiarity about Thinkorswim. One of the good things I like about Thinkorswim is that trading off these charts could be very simple. If you open up your active trader window, you can set a template. So if this is the YM, right? So I'm going to grab my YM. It's a bracket. I got one for 2 targets, one for 3 targets. Let's choose the one for 2 for now. You could set this up in advance, save it, and then you could choose it to quantity. Okay, I'm going to close all this now. If you need to learn how to set this up, you can ask the Thinkorswim tech support, or you can ask me in the trade room, and I'd be happy to show you. But once you do, now that you see the setup here, and you can hover the mouse and see that it's at 24,213, notice that the targets light up in green because it's a green trade right on the margin. So you see the setups right in front of you, and all I have to do is go over to 24,213 and I could place the trade. And notice on the right, can't really move my mouse, but notice I've got offset targets. Well, I'll place this. Let's see if it will place it. Okay, so it placed the trade. Now I've got these targets here and my stop, and I could easily scroll them to these numbers. So if target 2, for example, is my goal, I could do it right here on the chart and move it to target 2. See how visual that is? I could do it from here as well. Maybe I want to go to target 3. I can move that right to target 3 like so. I could also do it on the ladder itself, and I can move my stops. The stops coincidentally have already been placed at the right location. That's just a coincidence, but if that weren't the case, I can move them. Then when the price comes up and hits the entry, it makes these targets active and the stop active, and they're connected by the bracket order template that I have set up in here, so that when one gets hit, the other one will cancel. And when the trade is over, all this all the additional orders will also be canceled because they're all attached by order cancels order. That's what a bracket order is. So what I love about using the thinkorswim platform is that it's all right here in front of you. You don't have to take your eyes off the ball. You see the setup, you see the numbers light up, and you could easily place the trades. You can drag your targets right on the chart, or you can drag it on the active trader window. You have a lot of ways to trade this. So that's a pretty cool thing. The way I trade with TradeStation, I have a similar setup. I've got my chart trading and I've got my matrix, and I basically do the same thing. With TradeStation, I use the data window. The data window you can use also with thinkorswim. It's just not very good, but I'll show you how you can do it. If you left click, you can go to Style, Data Box, and then choose Fixed. Not floating, because then it'll follow your mouse everywhere you go. Choose Fixed. Then you get your data box, and it's right here. So when I hover over the trade with my mouse, if you look to the left, you'll see the entire trade is now lit up, and you can see the entry. LE is for long entry. The LS is long stop. The LMM is your long money management. That's that small little dot. Notice on the chart it's at 24225. You'll see it's at 24225 on the data box, and of course your 4 targets. The reason why I don't like this data window is because as soon as I move my mouse, it follows the next, it gives you the data on each bar. I mean, that's kind of cool. You want to be able to get the data on each bar, but there's no way to freeze the data. So the only way to freeze it is to keep your mouse hovered over your setup. Okay, again, that's not a spotlight thing. That's a thinkorswim thing. It's just, unfortunately, the way it is with thinkorswim. So you just have to get used to how it works. You don't need to use this, but if you're back testing or if you want to double check things, it's there for you. Okay, I think when you're trading live, though, you're going to love how it all brightens up in the color of the trade right on the right side of the margin, and you could always hover your mouse right on top, and it shows you over here on the right, you can see the quote for each place you put your mouse. Okay, so you can see target 4 on the data window is 24251. I'm also hovering it over the mouse, and on the right margin you can see 24251. And if I just move it, it's lit up as 24251 already, because thinkorswim is going to show you the brand new trade all lit up in the color on the right on this price axis. So that's pretty cool. And you'll notice also these red lines here connected by a chain. That tells you that it is a bracket order, that they are connected, and you see the same red lines on the data window. Not the data window. You see the same red lines on the active trader window, the ladder, and you'll notice that this is connected with the stop down here. And the other stop is also connected with the other target, which I offset so that they're easy to grab and move. Now, what if I want to target and I also want to trail. Well, you can just delete one of these targets like so. Now I've got one target, but I've still got two trailers. So if the price enters, these become active, it moves up, the price goes up higher and higher, hits my target, this will come off, and one of the stops will come off, and the other stop is what I will move up and use to trail. So as the price continues to go further up and up, I just keep sliding my stop up and up, following the trailer. And what you'll learn in your training is it is typically 2 ticks above or below your balance line. So for example, if I was short here, you could see that when it hit the money management, the stop moved down, and then it starts trailing. Now what it won't do is do the key level adjustments. You're just going to have to get used to doing that. It's actually not hard. It's just something to get used to. But I think it's important. The more you trade, the more you're going to learn that those key level adjustments are worth the price of admission. It's just a small little insurance policy. You pay an extra tick or two to try to prevent the psychological number preventing you from staying in the trade or getting into the trade too early. Make sure you go through the training to learn about the key level adjustments. All right, so that's how you set that up. Now let's say you want to trade a Forex chart. So let's go ahead and put on a Forex chart. Let's go with the EUR USD, and I've got a 377 tick chart. So that might be too slow. It probably is. You can go faster. Again, I like range bars, but range bars just will not work with Thinkorswim. Even though they offer it, I'm sorry to tell you, it's your choice to use Thinkorswim. You got to work with the limitations of the software. I would prefer that you use TradeStation or NinjaTrader, but these charts and the setups are still good with Spotlight. You just have to find the right chart. All right, so let's go with a 233. So you can see there's some decent trades in here, and here's a long trade. Now, what you have to do, though, is you have to change the calculator so that it's set up for Forex. All right, so if you double-click on one of the targets, what we're going to do is make it Forex friendly. You could type into the comments here that this is your Forex day trade default calculator. It's good to mark your calculator. You got a few comment sections. You can label these. Then scroll down a little, and everywhere that you see the name ticks in the description name, the word ticks, you need to add a 0, because we're not interested in getting long if we have a 2-tick breakout, right? We want a 20-tick breakout, which is a 2-pip breakout. Remember, there are 10 ticks to a pip. So what we're interested in is a 2-pip breakout, right? So you have to turn 2 to 20. Same with the stop. It has ticks in the name. Add a 0. That's the trick. Let's keep going down and see where else we see ticks in the name of the description here. Here we have minimum ticks for money management. We want that. I would, instead of just making it 8 pips, we want to make it 120. And the reason why I say 120 is because that gives us 10 pips plus 2 pips of spread, right? 120 ticks, 120. In other words, the money management won't move to lock in a pip of profit until the trade has gone 12 pips, right? Because you have a bid-ask spread, and I'm just kind of assuming a 2-pip average spread. Okay, maybe it's 3. Maybe you have to make it 130 ticks or 13 pips. But I think 12 or 120 here is a good number. Your break-even ticks is not 1 tick, it's 1 pip. And your trailing ticks is 2 pips, not 2 ticks. You see? And then there's one other that you would need to change. If you use a stop and reverse adjustment, you're going to want to make that a 20. So you can change that now if that's what you choose to do. And then the dots to the MA, that's where your exhaustion dots have a proximity to the 50 moving average, and we want more than 4 ticks. We want 4 pips. So make that a 40. And then that's it. We really don't need to do anything else. We can hit apply, hit OK, and then right-click on your chart, go to studies, save, study, set, and we're going to call it SPT1 FX day trade. And then we're going to hit save. So now we've got the default calculator. We can apply it to any FX chart. And you can see some pretty decent trades. Works pretty good. This is the end of the day here, so you can see, and this is also non-farm payroll day, but it works, okay? So then it's just a matter of finding the right tick chart to trade Forex, and you're going to have to resort to the 3-step sniff test, which is taught in the training as well, because ultimately, I'll just tell it to you really quickly here, you want to have enough trades in your session, and you want the trades to be an appropriate size. So think about what your session might be. So depending on when you're going to start trading, the typical US session I use starts at 8:30 New York time. Maybe you want to trade a little earlier. It doesn't bother me as long as you go through the process of testing and making sure that you can apply that sniff test, right? So the sniff test is, are there enough trades in a session? Are the trades an appropriate size? You don't want them too small. You don't want them too large. With Forex, too large is kind of a moot point. You could always adjust your position size with micros, minis, full-size lots, okay? Too small is a problem because you have to pay spread. So you definitely want to be able to get to a 10 pip target at the very minimum and then quit with a positive result most of the time, which incidentally, that's the third step, is to count your winning, losing, and break-even sessions and make sure you can quit with that positive result a majority of the time. If you want more information on that, please visit the Fast Test training that you'll find on this very same page. Okay, fast testing, back testing, all very important for you to succeed. All right, so now let's talk about setting up a custom swing trade chart. So I've brought back the Owners Club. I'm going to go to Trade Plans, and let's start with the Forex, and then we'll set up a stock and equity chart. It's the same process. So with Forex, you'll see that I've got these momentum bars here for day trading. Again, you'll want to use Ninja or TradeStation for these charts, and I highly recommend you do that. But while we're on Thinkorswim, you'll do fine with tick charts as well. Maybe you want to do the end-of-day swing trading. Now, Thinkorswim is fine for that. The setups work exactly the same as TradeStation or Ninja. So let's go ahead and choose. This one here has a Euro USD plan. So let's use that since we've already got that chart set up. And maybe there'll be some details printed in the trade plan description. The most important thing is that you get your indicator set up properly. So if you scroll down on the left side, you're going to see some spreadsheets, and each one of these spreadsheets has custom inputs for the trade plan. So you're going to want to download, in this case, the Euro USD spreadsheet. Once that downloads, you can open it, and then you'll see some nice information in here. So this is the performance report when I posted the plan, but what you're interested in is the settings tab. So click on the settings tab, and then you're going to want to format a little. So just widen your margins a little bit, your columns. And what I like to do is take this column here and align it to the right, and take this column here and align it to the left. And now it's really easy to see, okay? I'm going to move the spreadsheet. Let's reduce it down. And let me point out a few things. The order of the inputs, the description on the left, the actual inputs you're going to put in your calculator on the right, it's the same order as what you'll see when you open up your calculator from your chart. So let's do that. I'm going to make this smaller so that I could fit it on the screen like so. And then I'm going to double click and open my calculator, and I'm going to change my comments here to EURUSD. Notice that up here it says end of day version 4. There are different versions of trade plans. This is a version 4. So I'm just going to label it so that I keep track and stay organized. You see comment 1, and then I could put in other things here. I'll leave those for you to do. Now I'm just going to start going down the list and quickly changing the inputs. So starting with max bars for setup is a 4. You can see max bars for setup. It's all in order. It doesn't take long. Make it a 4. The next one is a 2. And then your entry offsets will be 81 pips, not 20 pips. And that's because it's a daily chart, much bigger trades. These have all been tested inputs. So then I'll do my stop, which is a 30 pip stop, 300 ticks. Then I'm going to change my targeting, which is 1.3, 1.5, 2, and then 2.7. Keep going down. My money management target is 0.5, not 0.9. I got an 880 requirement. It has to go 88 pips and 0.5x in order to kick in the money management. That's what that means. Those two inputs work together. Helps filter. It prevents your stop from moving when the trade's too small until it goes one of those two distances, either 0.5x. It has to go actually both, 0.5x and 880 ticks, 88 pips. All right. Then your trailer, you're going to trail it not by 2 pips, but by 7 pips. Okay. And then we just keep going down, and you could see on the spreadsheet here, there's not a whole lot more to change, but we do want to change the balance line to a 34. That's very important. So 34 instead of a 9. And everything else stays the same, except that our dots to the MA is not 40, it's 100. So that gives a few more trades, and then that's it. Everything else is the same. All the key level adjustment stuff, don't worry about it because you don't have it anyway, and you just do that in your head. Okay, just the basic key level adjustments that I teach in the training. So that's finished. Now I can hit apply and hit OK. The one other thing I need to do, oh, and I have to make this a daily chart. That's a 233 tick. So let's go ahead and put a daily chart on. It's only 1 year. You're probably going to want to do more than 1 year. Okay. So the other thing is that remember that the balance line, which is the default of 9, we changed it to a 34 in the calculator. This balance line is not the calculator balance line. This is just a visual for you to be able to see with your eyeballs. Okay, the calculator doesn't see this. It has its own hardwired in. So we need to double click on our balance line and change that to a 34 as well. That's very important. Otherwise, you'll wonder what's going on when you're looking at your charts. Okay, so let's see if we can get some more data. Let's go to daily. Okay, when I click on the time frame button, I can go to time interval 1 year. But what I want to do is maybe choose 5 years or even 10 years. So you can get the data like that. And now there's a bunch of data. So I've just set up the trade plan for the Euro US, and if you're going to actively swing trade, you're going to want to have a bunch of these, okay? Because these are, remember, Spotlight doesn't try to catch every move. It's looking for the highest percentage trades that you have a high likelihood of winning, okay? You may not get a lot of setups on each trade plan. Maybe you only get 1 or 2 a month. Maybe you'll have a trade that actually goes and lasts for a very long time. So I recommend that you have a lot of these trade plans and that you just use, as many as you'd like. You can build as many trade plans as you like. You can be as active as you want. And I even have multiple versions of the same pair sometimes. Different trade plans that just have different results and treat the setups differently. You can see the most current one got short several days ago, and it didn't take it long to blast through all its targets. And now it's moving lower and lower and lower and lower. But you could see it was a pretty good trade. It got short right there at, we could see it on the right margin, 2247. And the target 4 is at 2099. So well over 200 pips just from here to here. And it's trailing, and who knows how long it'll go. So the trailer is going to follow that 34, that really slow moving balance line. You could always trail faster. You could always use a different technique if you'd like. You could always just do a 3-bar stop and put your trailer, you set it up in your active trader window, but you can put it above the high of the 3rd bar back. There's a lot you can do with Forex, okay? Obviously, the Spotlight has its own technique of trailing, but that doesn't mean that you can't use your own techniques, okay? You're the trader. So this is stuff that you will learn the more you use the strategy and the more you trade with. But now that I've created this, don't forget the all-important save study set, and we're going to save this at SPT. We'll call it the EURUSD end of day V4, and then hit save, because next time you open up a Euro USD chart, all you would have to do, of course it would need to be a daily chart for this to work, but you can then just go studies, load study set, and then you can go ahead and choose your SPT1 Euro USD end of day version 4. And you could build a whole bunch of these. So with every new trade plan that you set up, save it as a template, as a study set. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the same process, only this time we'll do a equities chart. So let's go with the spider. Let's just type in SPY. And of course, this is going to look really strange because this is not what we want. In fact, let's go ahead to start with a clean default. You can go to load, do it higher so you can see this, load study set, and then go with SPT1 default. That's the one we set up, correct? So go with default. So now you've got the default, and even with the default, there's some pretty nice trades in here, but we want to get one of the custom trade plans on the Owners Club. Let's do that. So remember, trade plans, you can go to ETFs for the spider, or you can get specific stocks. So we'll choose the ETF here, and we'll look on the left, and we'll see there's several. There's a bunch of good ones, but we're interested right now in the spider. So let's go ahead and choose the SPY. And all it says is here are 3 variations for swing trading the SPY. There's nothing really to know. You know the strategy. You know where the entries are. You know where the targets are. Okay, so what you need to do is scroll down to the left and download your 3 different versions. And I would do all 3 because, again, these trades don't happen very often. But when you're trading options, every option is different, and you literally could use all 3 of these trade plans, and it's going to triple your activity because you're going to get 3 times as many trades. Okay, they're all different plans. Let's do the version 3. It downloads here. You get the spreadsheet. Once the spreadsheet opens, make sure that you can see the spreadsheet. And let's do the same thing. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. And we'll make this right orientation. We'll make this one left orientation. So now it's all really easy to read. And then I'm just going to double click here. And I can start typing things in. So this is the spider. Here's the comments here. SPT1 SPY end of day version 3. Let's go ahead and put that in there. SPT. And then let's just do the same thing where we're just going to go down and change the stuff we need to change. So max bars for setup is 7, but we're really picky because 1 bar to cancel. Again, you'll learn that in training if you don't know what that means. Entry offset, 3 ticks, but the stop is 40 cents, right? 40 ticks. And then you don't have to change any of the targets except the 4th one. Instead of 2.5, we'll make it a 3.3. Okay, and then we'll keep going down, and you'll notice that it's 0.9, 0, 195, and then 2, which it already is. So there's not a lot of changes, you see. And then we have to get down. The balance line is a 21. So let's go ahead and make that a 21. And then we've got balance line 21. We're using a 56 EMA instead of a 50. So make that a 56. The dots to EMA is still 4. There's nothing else to change. We're absolutely finished. So let's go ahead and hit apply. Okay. Now don't forget though, since we changed the 50 EMA to a 56, double click on that. Make sure you change that to a 56. Okay. And just hit apply. We don't have to change the balance line. Oh yeah, we do. We actually have to change it to 21. So let's do that. One of the things that I like to do when I change the balance line from a 9 to a non-default setting is I will change the color on my chart because it tells me, hey, this is a custom balance line. So you could easily do that by double clicking on the balance line and choosing a custom color. I usually use orange, but you can do whatever you like. Now I know that it's a custom input. It's 21 instead of 9. Okay, so now I've got this set up. And if you'll remember at the beginning of February when the markets crashed and all the volatility came into the markets, well, here's your Spotlight setup, and it caught the crash perfectly. Look at the first target. You take profit, 25%. Look at the second target, and it even stabs down to the third target. Look how perfect it caught that. Now it's in a long trade, and it's been in a long trade all this time because the markets have been up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. The stop is down here. Now it's up. So this is just a trade that's going for a long time. Now, before we do anything else, by the way, we could scrunch down the OSOB if we don't want to see it. We can raise up the chart and change the scaling. There's a lot you can do. One thing I want to do, though, is I want to left click, studies. Actually, I'm right-clicking. Studies. Do it again. Right-click, studies, save study set, and we're going to call this SPT1, SPY, end of day V3, and hit save. Now you'll want to do version 2 and version 1, and you can see all those. You're going to get other trades, like I said. But let's say that you're interested now in getting in sync with this trade, because this trade could still go all the way to target. Yeah, it could lose. Any trade could lose. But the performance report, and you could look on the spreadsheet at the performance report, well, you could see that it's winning 92% of the time. It's got a huge profit factor. Every trade averages out to making $6.34 per share, right? If you were to buy a share. But if you're buying options, and you're going to be making some percentage of this, but you're going to be paying pennies on the dollar. So if it's a 70 delta, you're going to pay pennies on the dollar, but you're going to make basically 70% of these numbers. But your returns will be double in, 50, 60, 80%, 120, 200% returns, right? You're going to make huge returns with options. So that's why you want to maybe have multiple trade plans. And all right, so let's say you say, okay, well, that's got such a great winning percentage. Maybe I want to get in sync with this trade. So if the bar comes up and hits the entry, you're able to still take that trade, right? You want to choose an option with enough time, several months into the future. You want to have an in-the-money option so that when you hover over this, now this might be a good time to bring up the data window. Remember, right-click, style, data box, fixed, right? So now when I hover over here and I could look over there on the right and I can see the entry is at 273.07. You see that? Let me move this closer so you can see it. Okay, I can't move my mouse, but look at the LE. That's your long entry, 273.07. So you can tell Thinkorswim, you could place a conditional order, right? This is something you're going to have to learn. You can learn this with Thinkorswim's tutorials, or you could even ask their customer support, how do I place a conditional order so that when the stock, when this SPY symbol, the stock comes up and hits 273.07, it will automatically buy the options that you have chosen. So in this case, you would want an in-the-money option, maybe a 270, maybe a 272. You'd have to see what they're offering. What are the options? And then, of course, a few months into the future, because you want to give this trade time to develop. So you could look at the performance report on that spreadsheet. You can go to the trade analysis tab here. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that it has the average time in trades. Again, you can stretch these cells out so you can read it better. But here it says the average time in a trade is about, say, 24 days. So you probably want to triple that or quadruple it as far as determining how far out you want your option, because you want to have plenty of time and you don't want time decay to have an effect on the value of your option. All right, so you could look at the average time in the trade, triple or quadruple it, and that'll tell you approximately the time of what would be a good option for you to buy. So when the stock comes up and hits the 273.07, which it hasn't done yet, it certainly did it earlier, but we're talking about getting in sync, right? You're going to get in sync. If it comes up, it could trigger that trade. Then you could set the conditional, you could have a bracket order that if the stock continues to come up and it hits your money management, then you could ask Thinkorswim to automatically move your stops on your options up a tick or two above the entry to a break-even position or close to a break-even. When it hits target 1, you could tell Thinkorswim to sell one of your options or a certain percentage of your options. You'll have to move your stop manually as it continues to trail. That's easy to do. You just change it, cancel and replace your stop on your options. When the stock comes up and hits target 2 here, your conditional order could be to sell another percentage of your options holdings, etc., etc. And so it's a really great way to go. So you want to take the time to set up these trade plans and get these charts set up, and then you could start trying these trades, and you could do it in a sim account and practice them, learn how to execute them properly, etc. Okay? So Thinkorswim works, the setups work. You have to learn how to use it with what Thinkorswim can do. Don't try to do things that Thinkorswim cannot do. That's why I say stay away from the range bars. Go with the tick charts. Works great on these end-of-day swing trades, both with Forex and with stocks and options. Okay? Unfortunately, with some of the day trading, you're just not going to be able to pull the data that you really need to do the adequate back testing. You know, that's a disadvantage. I don't know how to address that. I mean, Thinkorswim will give you the data they give you, that they'll give you. That's it. My opinion is you should go to a more capable charting platform at some point. Think about getting TradeStation or NinjaTrader. There are reasons that are very beneficial for you. But that does not mean you cannot use Thinkorswim and be successful with the Spotlight. The setups are great. You just have to get comfortable with how the platform works. Okay, so hopefully this helps. I know I've owed you this training video, but I had to wait for the newest version of the calculator. There were some bugs we had to fix. Everything is working great now. Enjoy. Any questions you have, please bring them to me in the trade room. That's the best place to ask questions, and that way I can show you things while explaining. But if there's something that you absolutely have to know and you can't wait, you're more than welcome to send me an email as well. tjnoon@netpicks.com, or you can send it to info@netpicks.com. Either way, I will get the question and I will respond. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.